Everyone's talking about AI these days, right? This season on Compiler, we're diving deep into how AI is reshaping the world we live in. Join us for a new season of Compiler, an original podcast from Red Hat. Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts.
All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to paint their door a vibrant shade of blue. Others have the need to decorate their bathroom with fish, anchors, and other nautical items. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.
Coming up on episode 384 of Wheel Bearings, we've got the GMC Sierra EV, the Land Rover Defender 110, Faraday X, Honda's new Zero Series, a preview of the Afeela 1, Chevrolet prices the Corvette ZR1, the 2025 NACTOY winners, a grounded electric camper van, and it's at the end of the Detroit Auto Show. That and an interview with Anders Bell, head of global engineering for Volvo Cars. All that and more coming up next. This is episode 384 of Wheel Bearings. I am Sam Abual-Samad from Telemetry Insights.
I am Nicole Wakeland from CarBuzz.
And I am Roberto Baldwin from SAE International.
And Nicole, would you like to talk about your ride this week?
Yes. I had a Defender.
It was the Buick Envoy, right?
Yeah.
Buick Envoy.
Buick. No, this time it was the Defender
Enclave.
110 Enclave. I know what you meant. The Defender 110X Dynamic SE, which is a weird name. So it's like, I find their models confusing anyway, but as we just had a whole conversation off air, I'm like, what? I don't have a Monroney for this because I wasn't provided one, and trying to figure out exactly which one I had is surprisingly difficult. We figured it out. So this is like the second trim up in the lineup. There's the S, there's the X Dynamic SE, there's the X, and then there's the V8, and then there's the Octa, which is like crazy.
That's
like,
the newest, like ultra high performance.
Yeah,
one.
the Octa and the Octa Edition 1, which are like $152,000 and $167,000. Those are crazy people buying that. This is more normal luxury car price. The base trim of the Defender is $60,800. This is $72,100. And if I did my math correctly, gentlemen, you want to guess at the destination?
Oh, you had to do math? Oh, man. 1,400. No, wait.
Dang.
1,600. Man, I just had this car. Why don't I remember?
I'm going to go with 1,750.
Okay, he wins. It's a he. He wins. Whichever one. Credit for that. Robbie wins.
He?
Robbie wins 1,625.
Oh.
So you were that close.
Wow. I thought after I said it, I was like, well, that was way too high.
No, that's assuming I did all my math right on the somewhat obtuse, sort of confusing site that Land Rover. I'm not a fan of their website. I find it confusing to navigate. So anyway, so I have this. This is great, and it was actually the perfect time to have it. We got snow yesterday. We were supposed to get a dusting, and we got almost 4 inches of snow, which was great. The perfect amount of snow to go out and play around and test out a vehicle to see how it does in winter weather, which I did. I even took it into an empty lot and did some donuts, which was super cool. Yeah, picked up some snow. That was very fun. So this is the four-door. It has 2 rows. It has plenty of seating in the back, like plenty of room for 3 adults. It's actually very roomy. And, you look at it, it's very boxy, which you either love or hate that kind of style, but it makes for a very spacious, comfortable interior, whether you're tall. You don't have to worry about headroom. You don't have to worry about legroom. Plenty of room in this one. Very comfortable. I love how they design this. It has that rugged, you can see like the way they design the inside. Nothing is delicate and fancy and elegant. It's all like, yeah, we're a Defender. Take us off road. We can handle stuff. So it has certain style inside that I actually really like. I love how they've designed the center console on this because you have the little cubby that opens up so you can store stuff in it, a couple of cup holders. There's a spot that's sort of wedged in there where your phone lies flat for the wireless charging. But then in front of that, you can actually reach down to the storage underneath. Like a lot of them have like an extra layer like that's down low, where you can store stuff. But this one, it has that, but you can just like drop things through. So you can reach into it instead of having to like reach sideways. You can just reach down into that little extra tray underneath, which I actually loved. I thought that was fantastic because I always hate it when I don't have a spot to throw my keys or my wallet or whatever's in my hands. I enjoy driving this. This one has a 3-liter turbocharged 6-cylinder, 395 horsepower, 406 pound-feet of torque. It moves. I mean, it sounds great. Actually sounds really good. It looks, the styling wise, I just love how it looks. I love the little, I don't know what they call the windows, but the windows that are kind of like up high along the roof.
Safari windows, I think.
Safari windows.
Oh, that's what they're called?
Yeah, I didn't know what they were called. Safari windows. I love how those look, except it was funny. When I first was driving it, because you're not used to seeing light coming from that point in the car, it kept throwing me like, what am I seeing?
Yeah.
Just light coming through in an odd spot. But it does look cool. I think it looks great. So I love it. I like driving it. It was fun to drive. It handles nicely. It was brilliant in the snow. My frustration with this one, actually, the only thing I truly did not enjoy was how the climate controls work, because too many functions are built into two little knobs. Like you have two dials, and those dials, there's one for the driver and one for the front passenger, left and right. You turn the heat, you turn it cooler, you turn it hotter. You push those same buttons, and now you turn them, and it's your heated or ventilated seats. Now it's not controlling your cabin temperature, it's heat or ventilation. If you push them again, it also, the one controls your drive modes, like are you in snow and gravel, but then it goes back to being your temperature. And there's too many. And then one, you push it and you push a different button. And then when you turn that, then it controls your fan speed. So these two dials are fan speed, drive modes, heated and ventilated seats, and your temperature.
Well, this is the fundamental problem with modern vehicles, is we're putting too many features in there. And if we gave discrete controls to everything, you'd have buttons and switches everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course the opposite extreme is to just put everything in the touchscreen, which is also a bad solution. So it's trying to find the balance of how many multimodal controls do you do, and nobody of course is thinking about the alternative, which is just maybe don't have quite so many features.
I know it was
Polestar. You just get in the car and you like drive it. There's like you can't like turn mode. You can't do anything. You're just like, here you go. Here's your car. And I'm like, this is actually kind of nice when you're driving it, because you don't have to think about like, oh, I got to turn in this mode. Oh, I got to test this mode. Oh, it doesn't have those things.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Cool.
it was too much in those two dials. And also I had a weird, there's the auto, which is its own little button, just so that once you set the temp, it keeps you at whatever, 70 or whatever you set. It was not actually modulating the fan speed at all. So no matter what I changed, like the fan was, I'd have to manually take the fan, push the button, use it as push the fan button, then turn the dial that was now operating the fan to make the fan speed higher or lower. And then auto would keep that fan speed. So it wasn't actually, so I felt like I was constantly like, push button, turn dial, let go of dial, push other button, turn dial, adjust temperature. It was kind of maddening. And even Russ was Russ was riding in the car, and I'm like, no, you just made it fan. No, you're changing the drive mode. Stop. Like, it was like,
please, for the love of God, stop.
Yeah, please, for the love of God, stop touching anything on the center console. So that is a little bit confusing, a little bit frustrating. So I was not a huge fan of that. Otherwise, I like it. And what's kind of weird too? I thought, so there's the infotainment screen. I apologize, I didn't look up the exact size. It feels weirdly low and down and it feels low on the dashboard to me. It like, you don't look like normally, like, how they're putting them now, they're more in line. So your eyes don't have to shift down, because theoretically the lower down you look to your infotainment screen, the more distracted your eyes are and the less you're looking at the road. If you can kind of do slightly down and to the right, your eyes see more of the road. This one feels very far down. And again, it could have been my drive position. So I kind of felt like almost like my arm and part of the steering wheel, I was kind of doing that little like, wait, what am I seeing on there? So I found that a little bit awkward. So I wasn't keen on that. And a cool thing though, is that they have this little spot, like a glove above the glove box. There's like a little shelf. and little shelf, it says Defender, which looks cool. But there's also a charging port right there. So someone can plug in their phone and then sit it right there to like rest, which is kind of a nice little feature. So I like that. So it was mixed emotions. I like driving it. I did not like the controls for the HVAC. Those drove me a little bit batty. And they also controlled the drive modes. And it was too much in those two dials.
Well, it's got a very weird like screen. It bows out, and you're not sure if like when you tap on things, then it sort of melds into the next feature,
right?
And the only time it like goes really quickly is when you switch to like CarPlay, because it's like bam, CarPlay
instantly.
So you're like, okay, so this is definitely. I for years been trying to figure out if it's a feature or a bug, and it's definitely a feature. It's definitely something that they're doing on
just
purpose.
doing slow animations.
Yeah, just like very nice like transitions from here to there.
Yeah.
And you for a year, I'm like, oh, this is nice, but is it a problem, or is it?
Is it supposed to work this way, or is this a mistake? Yeah.
Yeah. So apparently it's supposed to work that way. I finally figured it out after years of driving JLR cars, trying to figure out. I'm like, is this just because they're not putting enough information? Because then you click onto things and it's moving. So I'm like, all right. So they're not like cheaping it out and then trying to hide it with transitions. Yeah. Oh, it's an earthquake! Earthquake!
You had an earthquake?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't feel that.
Just a little baby one.
Baby earthquake? Are we going to see it on the news? If I look up San Francisco, I'm going to see earthquake.
Oh, let me go look at blue sky. It's probably going to be earthquake sky. You guys keep talking. I'll see what's going on.
You have to run away. If you run off the screen, we'll know why.
I mean, we can see you on the screen, and your house hasn't fallen down around you, so presumably it was a fairly mild.
That's a good thing.
Maybe it's just a giant truck. That's pretty earthquake.
Yeah, Dana Hall just felt a small earthquake in Oakland.
So Dana and I are on Team Earthquake.
There was a 3.6 magnitude earthquake 42 minutes ago. So you have another one?
Yeah, it's California.
Oh my gosh, I can't live there.
3.6, you might not even feel it.
I've been in earthquakes where they had to yeah, there we go. My grandmother's house had to be demolished.
Oh my goodness.
I've been camping where there's earthquakes, where there's giant boulders rolling down the hill.
No, I'm not in California.
I've been in earthquakes where there are, we had a chandelier in our house and it was like smacking the roof of the house or the ceiling.
That's horrifying to me. No, thank you.
You're just like, oh, okay, another earthquake.
But at least you're alive, so we're good.
Yeah, everything's fine. Sorry, everybody. Today's earthquake break brought to you by indifference to the geological movements of the planet.
Nicole, have you ever felt an earthquake?
No. Well, actually, believe it or not, here, yes, we had a little tiny earthquake. We've had like two. That technically, New Hampshire, believe it or not, is on its own little fault line, and it has a little earth. When we have a little earthquake, few and far between. They're so barely there, but because I think we never have them, when they do, you're like, what the heck? Like you really notice it because you don't just
looking around.
You're like, why do things feel funny? But they never do anything. It's just like as soon as you realize it's happening, it's done, and it's small and unnoticeable for the most part.
The one time I felt an earthquake was when I was working at the GM of Canada St. Catharines engine plant, and I was in the office, and I felt something. And I figured, because the offices are up above the factory floor, and so I figured, it's probably just a forklift ran into one of the pillars, one of the pillars that holds it up. And it wasn't until later that I found out, it was an earthquake that was actually centered in Quebec, which was like several hundred miles away.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was, tiny for you, bigger for them.
All right. Earthquake alert is done. Let's move on.
What were we talking about?
I'm talking about the Defender. So that was it on the Defender. Really enjoyed driving it. Pricing wise, $72,000. It's not a cheap vehicle, but I mean, it is still a luxury vehicle and capability like crazy. And aside from the controls for the heat, air conditioning, all that, which kind of, I suppose you get used to it, but I just don't like it when that many things are in one function or in just two dials. I really did enjoy driving, and it's a nice car, and it's just fun. It looks cool. My neighbors all think it looks neat. So there you go.
Which color did you have?
I have, it's like I didn't write the color. Again, I don't have a Monroney and I didn't look it up, but it's sort of like a brownish goldish color. I'd have
okay. So that's the Gondwana stone.
Yes, I think that was it. I did see
Yeah.
that when I was looking at yes, it's Gondwana stone. What is Gondwana? Is that
I haven't.
that's a
For all I know, it may be a completely made up word from some designer.
God want a stone.
Yeah, that's it. I just Googled Gondwana stone. That is definitely the color.
Where is your home?
It was a large landmass, sometimes referred to as a supercontinent. The remnants of Gondwana make up around 2/3 of today's continental area.
It's like Patagonia. No, wait.
We're all about
Pangea.
Pangea, yeah.
all sorts of like learning about earthquakes today, learning about the stone.
Thanks for learning it.
It's little geology.
Yeah.
Geology. We're all learning.
Geophysics, yeah. So it makes up around 2/3 of the continental area, including South America, Africa, Antarctica, Australia, Zealandia, which is, I guess that's the New Zealand area, and Arabia and the Indian subcontinent.
And you can find it on the Land Rover Defender 110. It
Cool.
does look good. It's a cool color.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, I mean, Defender doesn't have really like bold colors, but they have some interesting colors.
Yeah, and it looks good with the black. I think it's a black satin wheel. They call it the wheels and and you get a little bit of that Gondwana trim, stone trim on that little sort of patch that's sort of near the C pillar in the car. There's like a little rectangle. It's a Defender or Land Rover on it. It's really cool.
Yeah, I personally like the Pangea green.
The Pangea green is really nice.
Yeah,
I have the Pangea green. I dig it.
That's the color.
That's kind of light. That's sort of light. I like that color.
Yeah, the Defender 90 that the TFL guys bought is Pangea green.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the best color and the best Defender.
Yep.
I like that. I like the Pangea green. That's cool.
Yeah.
I really like the 90 so much. I think I've talked about this like a dozen times. I think I should just shut my mouth.
Just be quiet.
Just shut
All
your
right.
mouth, Robby.
Anything more on the Defender?
Nope, that's it for me.
Okay.
Done. I'm out. Bye. No.
Goodbye.
Robby, do you want to say anything about the car you have only very briefly driven, or wait till next week?
It's like a preview, like coming next week on the Will Bearings podcast. Robby will talk about the BMW Z4 M40i with the manual transmission. It's green. It's a matte green. It's convertible. It's all the things that a car should be. And I haven't had a chance to drive it. So I have to drive it today so I can talk about it next week. And then I'll also have a WRX for next week. So I'm getting I have two really great cars. I love the STI and the WRX so much because they are the ultimate. I want to go drive on back roads, and it doesn't matter if they're a little messed up versus like sports cars where you're driving on back roads and a little messed up. Nope. Now I just jump this Aston into the other lane because there's a bump in the road.
I jumped my Aston. Yeah, sure.
Whoops.
Oopsie.
Whereas the STIs will be like, yeah, I got this. And it has that wonderful gearing on the STI, so on the transmission, which I adore. So two manual transmission vehicles. It's gonna be a hootenanny here at the Baldwin household. Hootenanny. You can't hear, but I won't be able to tell you anything until next week because I literally have only driven the Z4 to Target and to CVS. I was gonna take it to band practice, but band practice is in kind of a rough neighborhood, and like I'll look at the car and I'll be like, no, that's not the car to take. Plus, I had to bring home something very large. That was the other thing I had to bring home the Nintendo controller that I built, which is very large. It's not like a little big Nintendo. So no Z4 for that trip.
Smartphones have gotten way more expensive over the past decade, and all it takes is one impact on a hard floor to make you wish you had spent a few bucks to put a case on it. Going online without ExpressVPN is like not having a case for your phone, and it only costs a few dollars a month. Nicole, Robby, and I travel a lot for our work, and we spend a lot of time in hotels, coffee shops, airplanes, and of course the Delta Sky Club. Connecting to the Wi-Fi in any public places with shared Wi-Fi puts your data at risk because bad actors could be intercepting what you send and using it to steal from you. It only takes some cheap hardware to intercept Wi-Fi data, and even a smart preteen can do it. Hackers can make up to $1,000 per victim selling personal information on the dark web. ExpressVPN stops the bad guys by creating a secure, encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet. ExpressVPN uses state-of-the-art encryption that would take a supercomputer up to 1 billion years to crack. I have ExpressVPN on all my devices, including a MacBook Pro, Windows laptops and desktops, and Android and iOS phones and laptops, or tablets. When I want to be secure, I just launch the app, click once to connect, and my data is secure. As I said, I travel a lot for my work, and I have to connect to countless public Wi-Fi networks in many countries. I have ExpressVPN on all my connected devices so that whoever else is on the same network can't see any of my data. That's important because I often have to check banks, credit card accounts, and transmit client data that might be sensitive, as well as filing articles on news that might be under embargo. ExpressVPN protects all of it, and I've been paying for my own account for years. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/wheelbearings. That's expressvpn.com/wheelbearings, and you can get an extra 4 months for free. expressvpn.com/wheelbearings.
Everyone's talking about AI these days, right? This season on Compiler, we're diving deep into how AI is reshaping the world we live in. Join us for a new season of Compiler, an original podcast from Red Hat. Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? Well, with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills. Wait, did I say job title yet? Get started today and see how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Did you know you can support Wheel Bearings directly? Head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia and you can become a patron today. Your contributions will help fund the platforms and tools we use to bring the podcast to you. And exclusives and improvements are already on the way thanks to your generosity. So if you want to be part of an automotive podcast like no other, head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia. We've updated the Wheel Bearings merch store, and now there's a whole bunch of new choices, new colors, new styles, t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, hats, mugs, travel mugs, stickers, aprons, tote bags, you name it. You can get your Wheel Bearings merch at shop.wheelbearings.media. Go check it out. That's shop.wheelbearings.media.
All right. Well, I had the 2025 GMC Sierra EV Max Pack, I think, or hold on, exactly what they called it. The where'd that Monroney go? It's here somewhere. Here we go. Max range. So this.
Sorry,
this
it's
is
like a Simpsons joke. I'm max power. You don't make love to max power. You sit in it and feel.
So the Sierra, it's the GMC version of GM's full size electric pickup truck. This has the big monster battery that weighs like more than my wife's Honda Civic. 24 modules, 210-ish.
They told me 18 last time I talked to them. It varies when whoever you're talking to.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of all over the map.
218 kilowatt hour capacity. That's the latest information I've heard.
Yeah, which they don't publish anywhere. Which is all they tell you is here's the range rating. So, but anyway, it's a big honking battery, and this is a big truck.
Honking battery.
Although
marketing,
as big a truck as it is, it's actually not any larger than any other light duty full size pickup truck. So it's roughly the same size as a Ram or an F-150, and like the Silverado, GM has gone with this unibody architecture that integrates the frame into the body structure. So that it can hold this 3,000-pound battery pack, and then it doesn't have a separate bed, a separated bed from the cab. It's all one big unit, which means that you have the benefit of it's available with the midgate, which with the combination of the midgate and the 63-way folding tailgate, you can potentially put in objects that are up to just shy of 11 feet long, from the back of the front seats to, if you put the tailgate down and flip up the little stopper at the end there, you can have almost 11 foot long objects in there, which is way bigger than any other truck. You can split the midgate. You can either put the entire midgate down. You can take out the rear window and clamp that on there, or you can leave the window in place and put the midgate. The midgate splits 1/3, 2/3. So if you only, if you need to carry some extra long 2x4s, but you still want to have a couple of seats in the back row, this is in the second row, you can do that. The main differences between the Sierra and the Silverado are some styling differences. The design is slightly different, and the interior is pretty significantly different. So Chevrolet, basically across the board on their EVs, and actually even on some of their gas models now, has got basically the same display layout, where you've got a big 17-inch center touchscreen, and then overlapping that is an 11-inch instrument cluster display. Like the other newer GM EVs, there's an Android Automotive operating system, infotainment system with Google Automotive Services, no smartphone projection. And, we've had that discussion numerous times.
Millions of times at this point.
Yes, millions of times. One thing I've started to notice on the last couple of these GM EVs that I wish they would address. I'm not, unlike a lot of people, I'm not fundamentally opposed to dropping smartphone projection, because it does tend to be a little flaky, and lose connection to the phone, and then it gets really annoying. But if you're going to go this route, then I think that there's some additional apps that need to be included in here that you don't have access to without your phone. Like, for example, the Google Automotive Services suite, I think, should also include Google Calendar.
I use that. I use the calendar a lot, because it's like, where do you want to, you have to go to this thing, and then I can click on it and it'll have the directions to the place.
Yeah, if you have a location already set up in a calendar event, I just open Calendar, in Android Auto, tap on it, and it pulls up the directions in Google Maps right away, and so they should have that in there. So that's kind of annoying. Also, I've noticed in recent weeks a couple of different vehicles that I've driven. I'm pretty sure they used to have the Hoopla app in the Play Store. So there's a couple of apps that are available through public libraries to get audiobooks and ebooks and things like that. There's Libby and Hoopla are the two main ones that most libraries across the U.S. use. The Libby app is still there, but they don't have the Hoopla app, which is available on Android and iOS and other platforms, but it's not in the Play Store for Android Automotive, which is kind of annoying, because Hoopla and Libby don't all have the same set of books. And I sometimes listen to audiobooks. And so if I'm using Android Auto, the projection system, I can use Hoopla in that environment, but it's not in the Play Store for Android Automotive to run natively on the vehicle. And so it's kind of a pain there. If I'm listening to a book from Hoopla, and I can't do it that way. But other differences from the Silverado, the Sierra, instead of having the long landscape layout screen, has a portrait style screen that is much more. It's a 17-inch screen, very similar to the one that Ford uses on the Mach-E and the Lightning and some other models now, where it's got a glued on knob towards the bottom center for volume. And when I say glued on, I mean that's literally how these things are manufactured.
Is it really just glued on there?
It is glued on.
Oh my
God. And there's a capacitive circuit in there. So from the rim of the knob, it's literally, when you twist the knob, it is literally tracing around on the screen. Just so if the knob ever fell off for some reason, you could get the same functionality by just taking your finger and tracing the circles clockwise or counterclockwise to do the same thing. So it is literally glued on the screen. And in fact, this, Ford was not the first to do this. Some of the other stuff, like some of the Jaguar Land Rover stuff where they have the knobs, I think the Defender's not one of them, but some of the other JLR stuff has had the temperature knobs on the corners of the screen. They were done the same way. It's, because they have the little display in the middle. So, having this ring that you can rotate, then they can just display different stuff in the middle of it, like your temperature or your volume, whatever. And one thing I do appreciate GM for is pretty much across the board, they are continuing to stay with physical controls, physical switches for things like temperature, and fan speed, and all your other climate controls. There's rocker switches for the defoggers and rear window defogger and all this other stuff. So you're keeping physical controls. That I really appreciate that.
What do you think it's going to be the balance? As we were talking about controls on the Defender and controls here, what is the solution when you have a vehicle that has heated seats and ventilated seats and massage? How do you make those controls? Like, what do you think the balance is?
I think the stuff that we need, that we use most frequently, should have its own dedicated controls. So temperature, a temperature knob, fan speed, front and rear window defogger switches, and an auto and on off button. Those are the most commonly used things. Those should be there all the time, and they should be in a way that you can do them from muscle memory, not have to look at a screen. So that's one of my complaints about recent Fords. They've gone to putting those on the touch screen. They're there permanently across the bottom of the screen, but they're still on the screen, and you have to look at them. You can't do them by feel. Yeah. Whereas you can, I like the physical controls there, and GM is continuing to use those, and that's a good thing. And they also have vents that you can move around, which is also a good thing without touching a screen.
Yay.
The max range version of the Sierra EV Denali, with the 24 module pack and however many kilowatt hours, is EPA rated at 460 miles of range. It was cold when I had the Denali. So I didn't try to run the full range, but I did a loop around my typical efficiency loop. With the heater on, because it was 15, 20 degrees outside, it averaged 1.7 miles per kilowatt hour, which is pretty miserable.
Yikes.
And this was not towing or anything, just normal driving, roughly at or just slightly above the speed limits, like going with the flow of traffic in a mix of highway, urban, suburban, rural roads. It's, and a big part of the reason for this, yes, I had the heat on, but also when you open the door and you look at the stickers that are on the driver's door jamb, where it tells you what your maximum tow rating is and your GVW, the curb weight on there, 8,998 pounds.
Wow.
So 9,000 pounds empty, which is ridiculous. Yeah. No, it's too much. It's too much. You do get a decent sized frunk, with a power opening frunk lid. It's a little bit smaller. It's narrower and slightly shallower than the one in the F-150 Lightning, but it's more usable than what you'll get in a Cybertruck. It's a decent looking truck. One of the advantages of the dedicated body structure that GM did for the Sierra and Silverado versus the Ford approach with using the existing cab is because you don't have the engine up there. They were able to shift the cab area forward a few inches. So even though this is a tall truck, it's got it's got a little bit better visibility than what you get in most full-size trucks to the front. Still not great, but it's better. Overall visibility out was okay. The Super Cruise was good. What else? The ride quality, it's got a full air spring suspension all the way around. So you can lift it and lower it. The ride quality is not great, especially compared to a Ram or to an F-150 or even standard versions of the Sierra and Silverado. The ride quality is a little bit stiffer because of the air springs and because you're supporting so much mass. So that's not awesome. That's not ideal. Let's see what else was on this thing. It had the full power takeoff capability. So there's 7 outlets, including a 240 volt outlet in the bed. It'll give out up to 10.2 kilowatt hours, 10.2 kilowatts. So you can power everything for days on end. What else? It'll do 350 kilowatt DC fast charging because it basically treats the 2 layers of the battery as 2 separate batteries and charges them in parallel at 400 kilowatt or at 175 kilowatts each. So it actually charges it charges fast, but because it's such a large battery, it's not the fastest it's not the fastest to fill up. It still takes a while to fill up just because the battery is so massive. If you run it all the way down. The heads up display is good. I continue to like the GM's haptic seats, when you're for the blind spot monitoring and lane keep assist and Super Cruise, to give you a little buzz on one side or the other if there's something to alert you. I actually think that works better than some of the other visual alerts or audio alerts. But yeah, I mean, it's a good truck, but it's really heavy and really, really expensive. What they call the extended range, which is the base version, which has 4 fewer modules in the battery, and gets a mere 380 miles of range. That one starts at $91,995.
Jeez Louise.
The one that I had, the max range, has a standard MSRP of $98,400. And it had an $800 tonneau cover, vinyl tonneau cover, $495 for the optional Onyx black paint, and a dual level charge cord for $295. Grand total came to $102,085.
Oh, that's a lot.
It is. It is a lot. A guest and destination charge
money
for a 9,000-pound truck.
Oh, $2,000.
I was gonna say $2,495.
Robby's closer. It's $22,095.
Okay, still
so just
up
shy of
there.
$2,100.
So much.
One thing I really did appreciate is when I was leaving for CES last week. It was 15 degrees out on Sunday morning when I was heading to the airport, and the day before I took a little time and figured out, and I did have to do a little research to figure out where to find the scheduling for the charging and preconditioning. But once I found that, I set it to set the temperature to the cabin temperature to 72 degrees by 6:15 a.m. the time I was planning to leave. And it does that while it's plugged in. And this is one of the beautiful things about EVs. You plug them in, and then you just you can set the schedule for when you want to depart, and it will work backwards from there, and it will preheat your cabin or pre-cool it if you're somewhere where it's hot, all while it's plugged in. So you're not taking away charge from the battery. That was very, very helpful to have when it was 15 degrees out when I was going to the airport.
I bet.
Yeah. That's pretty nice. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. And when you're doing that, you're also getting the battery ready so if it's super cold, your battery will last a little bit longer. So that's really nice. You're preconditioning the battery essentially.
Yep.
And you're doing that with the power from the grid versus, making your car try to do that. So your car is trying to keep your battery and it's trying to get to an optimal, operating temperature. And so it's using energy to get it so it'll be more efficient to do energy. So if you can just do that with the what do you call it, the grid, then that's better.
Yeah, and the Sierra, one advantage of the big battery is if you tow, the Sierras and Silverados can tow 10,000 pounds, but unlike the F-150, because it has a much smaller battery, struggles to get much over 100 miles. If you have a big trailer, you can get well over 200 miles on a charge when you're towing a max size trailer with this thing. So,
Nice.
All right. Let's talk about some of the stuff that we saw at CES.
CE what?
Yeah.
What?
Let's start with Faraday.
I didn't see anything, so
I don't know what we saw.
Nicole and Rebecca came with me to check out Faraday X, which I think we referenced last week. This is supposed to be the entry-level lineup for Faraday Future. It's their new sub-brand, Faraday X. As I said, somehow they keep managing to find some money somewhere. During the briefing, when we got there, we sat down with Max Ma, who is the CEO of Faraday X, this sub-brand of Faraday Future. And one of the questions we asked was, so how many FF91s have been delivered?
I think Robby should take a guess because you and I know.
So I know they made 12 mules. Well, that's what I don't know that. I was told back in the day. So I'm assuming 12. I think 12 is like a number that they love.
Is it 12? Slightly off.
You're quite close. Yeah. So this is a car that was first shown at CES in 2017. So that is 8 years ago.
8 years. 8 years.
I rode an electric scooter, like a Vespa style scooter, that at that CES. It was the best. It was one of the best CES because I just rode my little scooter around town.
Yeah, Whee! I was at that 2 hour long event.
It was very long.
2 hours of my life that I'll never get back. And at that time they were saying, this was in January of 2017. They were saying that car they would start deliveries by the end of 2018. And at that point, they had moved a little dirt around on the proposed factory site, and that was it. They had some prototypes. As of this week, they said they've delivered 15 or 16 of them.
15 or 16. And how many years is that now, Sam? Let's just revisit that. When was this first?
2017.
8 years.
8 years.
So a while.
About 2
so that's like less than 2 a year. 1.97 a year. 1.8 a year.
1.97 vehicles per year.
And supposedly Morgan Freeman, the actor, who was he was not pleased with using Ubers and Lyfts, and so he decided to start his own transportation company, and he apparently bought 1 or 2 FF91s. That's the first I've heard about that. But
do they do anything? I mean, I was a little confused on that. He was tired of Uber, so he bought these two cars that is now his new booming business. I don't get it.
Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. Anyway,
yes. And this isn't the oddest part of the story, folks.
Yeah. So Faraday X is planning to launch 3 models: an entry-level model that is priced between $20,000 and $30,000 that we did not get to see, did not really learn anything about. A mid-range model priced between $30,000 and $50,000, which we also did not get to see, and didn't really get any details of. Other than they apparently have some partners who are going to be supplying components and systems for these things.
All right.
They're supposed to be.
We don't know which partners or where or how,
yes.
but they're partners.
Yeah. And
I'm just gonna say really quickly, before when I did the Faraday future tour of their facility, and I believe it was Torrance, they kept insisting they were building almost everything themselves, which everyone who covers cars in that little scrum of journalists was like, what's happening? What's happening? What's happening here? This doesn't make any sense. What is going on? Why are you doing this?
So now they're planning to do assembly at their plant in Hanford, California.
Hanford. Wait. Oh yeah, my dad. Oh, fun fact. Another fun fact. My dad used to work at that factory as when it was what do you call it? Tires.
Oh yeah,
it was a tire factory. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, we spent like an hour or so there. Didn't really learn much of anything about those two models. What we did get to see, and actually even ride out in the parking lot.
I mean, ride like for 2.5 minutes. I think 5 is too much. I think 2.5 minutes.
Okay, maybe 2.5.
Lot.
2.5 minutes.
I was trying to be generous.
Okay, 3. Let's call 3 minutes.
Split the difference.
So it's the flagship of the Faraday X line. Which, do you want to describe this, Nicole? Do you want to tell us where this fits?
It's okay. They kept talking about how an Escalade's cool, and you want an Escalade. But so big. It's so big. It's so big and heavy. And how do you?
Escalades are big. I'll give them that.
Right? How do you drive that around? How do you navigate? It's too big. No one likes driving an Escalade, so they say. And maybe a minivan would work, but just a standard old minivan isn't as cool as an Escalade. What is one to do? Faraday X. It's like a minivan, but plussed out. The seats are fancier. But of course we couldn't quite see everything because it's black draped all over everything. You could kind of see the seats were cool, but there's black fabric, and you could kind of see stuff, but you
could feel the massaging through
feel the massage. Yes. There's black over the dashboard. It was all covered up very much, so you couldn't entirely get the full effect of it. But it's basically like an overly fancy minivan. That's what it felt like to me, with very lovely second row, not even captain's chairs. They're kind of like lazy boy recliners. They are really cool, right? And then you have two similar, in the back. I think it was the same kind of idea in the back, but it was very hard to get to the back seats. This very slim, tiny gentleman said, "See, you can sneak right back here." And I'm thinking, you can. Robby couldn't. I couldn't. Sam couldn't. I feel like it was very snug. It was just a tiny space. And they drove us around in the parking lot and in a little loop-de-loop and showed us, and then they had to keep it under, what was it? Under 5 miles an hour?
I think they said 5 miles an hour.
Because
what?
The people that owned the property didn't want them hooning around in their fancy minivan, but not a minivan. So they were apparently watching them. And if you went over 5, they would have gotten in trouble. And for 2 seconds at the very end, he was like, zoom, stopped. It couldn't even have been 3 car lengths. And so
okay, hold on.
Yeah. You have questions, Robby. We have no answers.
So the people, they rented a location
in North Las Vegas.
North Las Vegas, where they could not go faster than 5 miles an hour.
Correct.
That was, and their reason, and
Yes. You did understand that correctly.
I think, in many ways, that is the least problematic thing about this whole thing.
Truly. And so everything about it, we kept all trying to figure out. I kept saying, who is this for? I said, so this is a very narrow. So you got people who buy Escalades and people who buy minivans. And then you got the person who thinks the Escalade is too big but wants one. And the person who thinks the minivan is really cool but not fancy enough. It's that person in the middle who wants a fancy minivan, electric minivan in the middle that's fancy.
Someone wants a Kia Carnival or one of the cool minivans they have in Japan.
Well, and that's what I was just going to say. I mean, in Asia, this is actually a pretty thriving market. You've got models, and I'll have a link in the show notes today. Tommy and Roman Micah were actually in Japan this week instead of at CES, probably for the best.
Those lucky ducks.
With they went to the Tokyo Auto Salon and they spent some time with Toyota, and they got to check out the Lexus LM, which is basically the same kind of vehicle. It's the same style of vehicle, a luxury minivan that is really targeted more, at, as a limousine. It's meant to be driven around, you ride around in it, somebody else doing the driving. In China, there's quite a few models of these. The Volvo has the the EM90, which it shares its platform with a Zeekr model, the Zeekr 009. These minivans that are really luxed out in the cabin.
And they mentioned quite a bit how, this is great for celebrities who want to they're going to have to take something and customize it. And instead they can just get this because it already has all the fanciness. It's great. I'm thinking in my head, wait, so you built a car for celebrities like that? Again, that's a somewhat narrow market of celebrities who would want this. And it is big. And but in the US, it is a weird proposition in the US because we don't really do that. We don't have people driving around that way. So I don't get it. I 100 ways don't get it. Also, they kept saying they wanted to be the Toyota of, what was it? AI EVs. Was that
Yes.
it, Sam?
Yeah.
The Toyota of AI EVs. That's what they're going to be. And they must have said that a half a dozen times. We want to be the Toyota of AI EVs. And I thought, what is an AI EV? I don't even know what that, I still don't know what that means. Do you know what that means, Sam? Do you have a grasp?
I know what AI EV stands for, artificial intelligence electric vehicle. What does it really mean? Who the heck knows?
Right? But they're going to be the Toyota of it.
Yeah.
It was so
Robby's grimacing.
Robby's just like, what?
I don't understand what's happening.
And we were there. Everybody who did it. And it was funny because I talked to a few other people who actually attended the same thing. And we all had that same, what? None of us got it.
Did you get a chance to talk with John Vincent?
I did. I talked with John Vincent.
He was there right before us. He was
I'm like, what? He's like, I don't know. Like, what's an AI EV? I don't know. Like, we're all mildly perplexed about what this is. And they did this whole, they had this whole like not warehouse, but showroom, and they had it was, they did it like you would do for anything that you were actually going to give information on and reveal to us, except didn't really give us information or reveal anything. And they spent a lot of time at the beginning too, talking about, the stock and the investment and the money. Like, I kind of felt like it was like, see, we do have money. Like they were trying to prove that.
Yeah,
I don't want to see any company fail, but this was weird.
When I did my article way back in 20 whatever 100 years ago for this about that CES show, the article was about trying to impress investors because even then they needed money. So I don't think, it seemed like they did all the right things to impress investors, but then everything went sideways for a bunch of different reasons for this company. Which if you just like follow Sean O'Kane, who's over at TechCrunch now, just everything he's written about Faraday, just read all that.
Yeah.
And because it is a long, strange, twisted tale of economic impropriety and just weirdness.
Yeah. And there was early on, there was also at one point a connection between Faraday and Lucid. Because early on, YT Jia, who is the founder, sometimes CEO, I'm not sure what his current role is, might be chairman of Faraday. He had a company in China, which has now gone away, that made TVs and smartphones and stuff called LeEco. And the company was an early investor in the precursor of Lucid. Was it Ativa? Was it Ativa? I think, yeah, Ativa. Before they changed the name to Lucid, they were an early investor in that project. And so there's a slight connection there. And he also wanted to have another company in China under the LeEco brand that was basically using everything being developed by Faraday, but for a car with different styling. It was it was a mess, and it remains a mess. And supposedly this van is supposed to launch by the end of this year.
No, they didn't even say the van for sure. It was,
They were targeting end of 2025 for the van.
There was one point where someone asked about, was it you? Was it right? I thought one of you guys said which vehicle's launching by the end of the year, and they said they couldn't say for sure.
Oh, okay.
So something.
Yeah. Something is supposed to launch by the end of the year.
But they weren't ready to say which one. So we don't know what is launching because it's only January, and having a vehicle ready to launch by the end of the year and not knowing which one it'll be in January is totally normal.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, absolutely.
Which one? I don't know.
We'll see.
Okay.
Yeah. So you missed out on that, Ron.
Well, I'm sorry I missed out on that because it would have really full circle on the whole Faraday thing for me.
That's true.
All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to leave up holiday decorations year-round. Others have the need to use their garage as practice space for their new metal band. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.
All right. Enough of Faraday. Let's talk about Honda and EVs.
So Series 0.
Series 0. Zero series.
No, wait, no. Yeah, 0 series. You're right.
Honda had 0 series, and isn't it a Type 0 or something? What was the Jaguar thing? Isn't that 00 or something? 00?
I don't know.
Their new thing 0.
Yeah, the Jaguar is 00. This is just 10. See, they showed prototypes, which and the way Honda does things, they have concepts which are kind of out there that may or may not ever get built, and then they have prototypes that they show, which are pseudo concepts, but they're basically very close to production models, and then they have the production stuff that they're building. Last year at CES, they showed off the 0 series saloon concept, and I forget what the vanish thing was. Space Hub, the 0 series Space Hub. And this year they showed 2 prototypes, which are basically the production models that are supposed to launch in 2026. Mm-hmm. Their first North American in-house built EVs. What do you and the saloon is very, very close, surprisingly close to the concept they showed last year. What did you think about these two?
It has a very square butt.
I think the SUV is going to sell a lot. I think they're going to sell a lot of those SUV, especially after the Prologue, because Honda people want an EV and they're like, I want a Honda EV, and that's what they got. It's kind of a GM Honda, but whatever. But based on those numbers, this SUV is going to do really well. The saloon, I think, is like the car for people like us. We're like, ooh, look at this crazy 70s retro futuristic vehicle. This is awesome. I want this saloon. And this is probably like the sort of the halo. People will buy it. It'll maybe bring people into the showroom, but most people are just going to buy the SUV.
I agree. I think the SUV actually looks pretty good, and I think it's going to do well because the Prologue's done so well. So I think this will do well too. But the saloon styling is
different.
It's a lot. It's different. I mean, it's not horrible. It's just very different. So I think where you can look at the SUV and think, "Yep, that's a little bit different, and it's cool." You look at that saloon, and you're either going to think it's fantastic or absolutely not.
Yeah, the SUV is like Ioniq 5 different.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, oh, it's just different enough where it's like, oh, I got this cool car. Now, of course, now everyone has a damn Ioniq 5 in my neighborhood. But so everyone has one.
What happens with cheap lease deals?
Yeah.
Those cheap lease deals, those things are flying like hotcakes. The saloon is going to, that's the one you have to get if you want to be different and cool.
Right.
And I really dig the sort, yeah.
It's got kind of a Lamborghini Countach vibe to it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like your Countach for you and your 3 other friends or 4 other friends. I don't know how many people you can shove in the thing.
I like how it looks. I really think it looks cool in profile, but the butt butt.
The butts will probably have to change just because of the laws.
Rules, regulations.
I don't know. I mean, it's got that, you've got the body work that kind of sweeps upwards, but then it does have a separate bumper underneath.
Does it?
I think mostly about the lights. I think they're going to have to do some stuff with lights there.
Oh, because of how the safety for the lights, because there's not enough lights on the sides.
Yeah. There's like side lights you have to have.
You might be right. Yeah, there's probably some lighting missing on that. But then if you're just adding lights, do you still have the weird butt?
I think it'll change a little bit. We'll see.
We'll have to see. But then I might be more on board, and so might other people.
Yeah, because if you look at the SUV, the SUV just looks like, okay, yeah, this is ready to go.
Yeah, the SUV could go right.
You look at the SUV's butt, you're like, yeah, this is fine. this is ready to rock.
So that squared off thing makes sense more because it's more SUV-like to begin with.
And it's got a teeny tiny little rear window.
Yeah,
teeny tiny.
So these are going to be built at the new Honda EV hub in Marysville, Ohio, starting with the SUV in middle of 2026, and then later in 2026 they add the saloon. And these are built on a whole new platform. These actually won't be the first EVs manufactured there. That's actually going to be the Acura that we saw as a concept last year in 2024. That debuted at Monterey Car Week. So that Acura SUV coupe thing, that's really is the one that should have the ZDX name, not the GM built one that they have now. That is supposed to launch production at the EV hub late this year, and then followed by the Honda 0 Series SUV, and then the saloon later next year. And I'm actually going down to the EV hub for a tour later this month to
cool.
check that out. To see what they've done with what they're doing on the manufacturing side there. So they've got a new joint venture battery plant there with LG, and then they're retooling the Marysville assembly plant to build EVs alongside internal combustion vehicles as well that they're building in Marysville, which I can't remember what they're building in Marysville right now. I think Accords. I think they build Accords there.
Cool.
So
I will be at Honda this week shooting video of both of these vehicles. So
in Torrance.
And so hopefully by the end of this week, if I can get it together, I'll have video over on the old SAE YouTube channel. So you guys can. I'll walk around and point at things and say things and point at things, and then that's essentially all I do. Walk and talk and point, and a lot of B-roll.
So these are not the only EVs that Honda is involved with. Honda also has this joint venture with Sony called Sony Honda Mobility that is launching a car called the Afeela 1, which we first saw as a Sony concept at CES in 2000. And then in 2022, they announced the deal with Honda. 2022, they showed a second concept. And then in 2023, they announced the deal with Honda to actually manufacture these things. And I got a preview from Afeela. We did a little walk around and sat inside and got a preview of the user experience inside. And this car, the Afeela 1, is supposed to go into production about a year from now, early 2026. It will be built at Honda's East Liberty, Ohio plant, which is a few miles down the road from Marysville. It's where they build CRVs and RDXs today. And they're going to add production of the Afeela 1 there. They announced pricing on this thing. It starts at $90,000. There's two models. Buy two. 90,000 and a little over 100,000. It charges at 150 kilowatts.
So listen, you're just going to wait 18 months to get a car with old technology. What's wrong with that?
And strangely enough, it apparently does not share a platform with the 0 Series. It's unique. I'm guessing that and I talked to Jess Feeney from Honda, and she was very vague about it. Mainly, I think in part because Afeela, the separate company, they have their own communication staff. And I talked to their PR people, and they were even more vague. Except claiming that it's not based on the Honda platform. Just when I suggested that at least some of the components would be shared, certainly the batteries almost certainly are going to be common, or at least the battery modules or cells are going to be common because they're all coming from the same factory. Maybe motors, maybe some other components, but a different platform. Did either of you get a chance to go look at this thing?
I didn't get a chance to look at it. No, but go ahead, Robby.
I went there and they kept doing like little presentations, so you couldn't actually get close to the vehicle because a bunch of people would stand around, because anytime there's a presentation, people just stop and look.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what the presentation is. They're like, what's happening? It's CES. I mean, we're going to stop and look and see what's going on. I did go and see the Afeela like a year ago, and they put a bunch of them in the malls.
Mm-hmm.
And I went and looked at it.
$90,000 car in the mall?
They just had them in the mall, and it was essentially just an ad for a lot of Sony products. And so it kind of irritated me, because I'm like, well, I'm not writing about this because there's nothing to write about. And now they have this, and I don't understand. Like, you can get a Lucid Air for less than this. You can get a lot
with more range and faster charging.
Yeah, so you can get a lot of different vehicles that are better than this for less than this. You can get Sony. What you can do is you can get Spider-Man into the multiverse, which is one of the best Spider-Mans, to be honest. So that's what they keep showing you whenever you see this car. They show you the cool Spider-Man animated movie.
They didn't show me that because they couldn't actually get that all working.
Oh yeah, everyone I talked to said it didn't really work when they were showing it off. So I don't know what. I think Sony thinks it has more clout than it actually does.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Sony, so it's like Sony decided it needed to build a car. It just needed to enter the automotive space, and it said, "Hey, Honda, want to team up?" Is that kind of what this is?
Pretty much, yeah.
For no particular reason, it didn't do anything Honda couldn't do on its own.
I mean, we've already seen what Honda can do on its own.
So then Sony's just like, "Yeah, help us do one too," and Honda said yes.
I have a feeling that there's as we talked about when we talked about the Honda and Nissan joint venture, that there was probably some pressure from government in Japan for Honda to rescue Nissan. I have a feeling that there was some influence from somebody up high in the government saying, "Hey, Honda, please help out our friends at Sony here because they want to build an EV."
So has Honda become the official life jacket for all companies?
They're just chucking out life jackets to everyone in Japan who's in trouble. Toyota, like,
where's Honda?
I was in an interview with Akio Toyoda, and I have to write that up. That'll be up this week. It's also on SAE. So yeah, so that's coming. But he was asked whether or not Toyota had been asked about teaming up with Nissan, and he said no, they had not. And there was concern about I think monopoly issues and stuff. But he's very excited about what's going to come out of that. But I feel like everyone just like, I don't know, just go to Honda.
If I were him, if there was any excitement, it was because now their strongest competitor is Honda. And now you're tying, a heavy weight around Honda's ankles.
True.
Yeah. Well, they got the kicks. I mean, come on, the kicks is great.
The kicks is really good.
I love the kicks. It's exactly what it's supposed to be. It's It's a Nissan version of a Kia Soul. Not the same body type or whatever. It's that entry level.
That same person's going to buy that. Yeah.
I don't want someone yelling at me like, "You're not the same car." I'm like, oh my God, I'm talking about the market.
Yeah.
First car or second car, nice inexpensive car you can just get and it works. And it does the things you like get to Target and Costco.
So the Afeela one, has a little display across the front in between the headlamps where you can display, by default, it just displays the Afeela logo, but you can, I think they said like with regulatory approval, they can display other messages on there. If it's being used as an Uber or something, you can, put people's names on there. Or, I think the one example that the Kyle Allen, the rep from Afeela that was giving me the demo, talked about was, if you're pulling up to somebody's house, pick them up to take them out for a birthday dinner, you could put "Happy Birthday," across the front. It's like, oh, okay.
So
and
you use it for swears when people cut you off.
I feel
presumably.
you. So I feel like this. It people don't want that much whiz bang silliness in their car. I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't think would that make you buy a car? Hey, I can Spider-Man and happy birthday and hi mom. Like, do you want that? No, it's too much. It's too everything.
Yeah.
Too much. Too focused on stuff you don't need. Too much bling. Too much unnecessary. Too much. It gets. As somebody used this word, just we were talking about it. It gets cringy.
Mm-hmm.
It's clever for the sake of clever, which it was sort of a problem with a lot of early EVs and even current EVs, where it's like settle down. People just want to get to work.
Yeah.
They just want to get to work. They just want things to like that. There's always going to be the person who wants the weirdest of the weird, like crazy, feature that they think they're going to use that they'll never use. The reality is 95% of people just want to get to where they're going. They just want to very easily be able to push buttons. They're never going to use the crazy thing. They're never going to use ludicrous mode outside of the 4 times they use it. They're never going to, all the sort of like really weird or exciting things that people think they're going to use. They're never going to use. You're just going to use the regular car thing.
Well, it's just like when you you have a million in any car, even just a basic, like what's considered basic, excuse me, for infotainment, you don't use half of that. You don't use half of what's in there. You look at it the first time you buy the car, you're like, cool, and then you never play with half that stuff ever again.
Yeah.
You use the map and the radio and media.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much it.
Right? It's just kind of unnecessary. And I don't know, honestly, I don't know that it sells a car. I mean, I think if your car it has a great infotainment section.
If it came with a PS5 controller sitting in the console,
well, then I buy.
Okay, there you go.
Just to
got in and there was the white PS5 controller sitting there. But we couldn't actually
put down his deposit.
No.
I mean, it charges at 150, so I mean, it's going to charge about 120. So yeah, you're going to have time. 91 kilowatt hour battery pack.
Yeah.
Sit back and play whatever the PS games are right now. I'm not a gamer. I don't know.
I don't know what they are right now either. So can't.
I love Portal. So if they have Portal, I know that's a PlayStation game. But now I can get it on my Nintendo Switch, so I guess it doesn't really matter.
You don't even need the PlayStation.
Yeah. Portal's a very old game.
I remember the game. That was fun.
But it does. It's something.
The reservations are open. You can only buy it in California.
$200. Well, that's the other thing. Initially, it's only going to be offered in California because they're doing direct sales, and then they're going to gradually expand across the U.S.
Does California not fight the direct? They don't fight the direct sales thing.
No, it's legal there.
Half the rest of the country does. Everybody's fighting that because dealers are having a panic attack. So,
and there's 40 sensors around this thing, including LiDAR.
Oh yeah, the 40 sensors. Yeah, they talked about the sensors.
Yeah,
it's going to be your friend. Oh no, that's the
Honda. And lots of tops of computing power. So
yeah, lots of top. Like no one. Yeah, I mean that stuff sells at CES. It was really funny because the Honda press release, which goes out to journalists, and the Honda press event, which was at CES, felt a little bit different.
Oh right. Yeah.
Because one's for like people who actually write about cars, and the other one's for people who are tech reporters who go to CES. And so I felt it was kind of fun to see that sort of the difference between them.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, because you have to sort of like, you play to the audience you got.
Right.
So yeah. So yeah, we're all going to be driving the Sony Afeela in 18 months. That's
sure.
And our first drive in, I guess, California, maybe my house.
And hopefully they'll even have the software working by then, because it sure wasn't working on Tuesday.
They got 18 months. They can do it. Maybe. I don't know. Call Rivian.
Yeah.
Pull a Volkswagen. Sony. And software's hard.
It
suffers
is.
really, 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 really hard. And I think all the automakers have finally realized that. And not Sony's turn. Good job, Sony.
All right. Enough of Afeela for now.
Okay.
The Corvette ZR1 is coming. It's got a top speed of 233 miles an hour, 0 to 60 in 2.3 seconds, 1,064 horsepower. And guess how much it costs?
Too much. $150.
Nicole?
I'll go 125. I'll just go low.
It's $174,995.
That's a lot of 401ks being emptied. That's a lot of empty 401ks.
I mean, think about the competitive set. Lamborghinis, Ferraris, McLarens. You can't get one of those for under 250 grand. So this is given what it's competing against and the capabilities of this thing.
Yeah, it does have
actually a bargain.
Part. Yeah, it shows you with the Corvette being at 173 and the Lamborghini. I never say it right. Revuelto. Thank you. 608,300. So you could buy 2, 4. So you could buy 3 of these or one Lamborghini.
Yeah.
Why are they showing off the 2022 McLaren 765 LT?
That's a straight
why is that
comparison.
That's why is that their comparison?
Because it made a nice step up in price for each of these things. 200, 300, 500, 600.
Well, isn't the 765 the latest iteration in that particular model lineup?
I guess, but
I don't think it's been updated since they launched the 765.
What's the GTS cost?
Even a 911 GT3 is $240,000 now.
750, yes.
And it has a mere 518 horsepower. So not even half the power of the Corvette.
What bother?
Yeah. And it only goes 184 miles an hour.
How can one even deal with that kind of speed?
I know. Ferrari SF90, only 199 miles an hour.
Lame.
Yeah.
Lame again. If you don't have to, you need that 233, or why are you even driving a car?
I mean, whatever you may think of Corvette, and I've had mixed feelings about Corvette over the years. You do get an amazing value in terms of performance compared to a lot of other cars. And the C8 Corvette, in most respects, I think is as good or better than most of its competitors.
Mm-hmm. No, this is going to be, it really is, as we're joking about it, but this is actually, if you're in that market, you're in that rarefied air right there. This does sound like a great value. I think it's going to be pretty cool for those people. I think it's going to be a neat car.
Yeah. I mean, that Huracan Storado that I drove a few months ago, that thing was just shy of $400,000.
Yeah. So this at less than 2 really is, it sounds weird to say at under 2, it's a bargain.
Yeah.
But it is. And it's compared to the competition.
All right. Shall we talk a little bit about the neck toy winners?
Well, we shall. And I think I still have the piece of paper that has what we each...
The vote totals?
That had what we had vote. No, not the vote totals, what we had each picked.
Oh, okay.
Where'd you go?
Oh, she went to get.
I thought you had it like right.
I went to grab it. It shot right off my desk.
Oh.
So okay. So I have the information. See you, gentlemen. I thought you'd talk for a second when you saw me disappear. So the winner for the utility was the ID Buzz, which all 3 of us thought would win. So go us.
Did I say the ID Buzz?
It says I have written down all Buzz.
Oh, okay.
That's whenever I wrote this down on this scrap of paper I've had sitting on my desk since whenever it was.
Oh, you know what it was? I think I think what I was saying was that, and I'll have to go back and check, but I think what I was saying was, I think that's the one that will win, but it's not the one that got most of my votes.
Oh yeah, no, this wasn't what we were voting for, you and me, Sam. This was more, this is what we thought would win.
Yeah.
So
for those not familiar with, when the jurors vote, we get, for each of the categories, for car, truck, and utility, we get 10 votes that we can distribute among the three finalists.
However we want. You could just give them all to one car. You could do 3 here and 5 there.
Yeah, so
you can divide it up however you want. Yeah.
So it's kind of a rank voting system, and in each of the 3 categories, I split my votes 7 and 3 for my top 2. Yeah.
I'm an all in. I go all in with the one that I think should win. That's just, I don't know why. That's just
which one did you vote for utility?
For utility, I actually voted for the one that very nearly won the category. I voted for the Santa Fe.
Oh, okay. So the Equinox was third?
The Equinox was third. Yeah. Do you have the vote totals in front of you there?
I do not. I have not seen the vote totals.
Okay, I'm pulling them up and clearly why nothing is working the way I had 2 seconds ago. I was ready for this conversation. But give me a second and I'll pull up the totals for you. But talk amongst yourself for a second.
I did 7 for the Equinox EV and 3 for the ID Buzz, I think.
Oh, I like the ID Buzz a lot.
I did too.
That's just me. I put your dogs in it. You can put your band in it. You can sleep in it. Yeah.
So
all the things.
So we have the ID Buzz
just enough speed at charging. It's better than the Afeela.
Yeah.
Right. So the ID Buzz came in with 187 points. The Hyundai Santa Fe 185 points.
Ooh,
it missed by 2.
Wow.
It was 2 points that separated the winner from second place. And then I'm having such internet troubles at the moment, guys. Things keep rebooting on me. Like, why are my screens disappearing? And then the Chevy Equinox came in third place at 128. So it was really a battle between the ID Buzz and the Hyundai Santa Fe in this category. So I feel they're all good vehicles, but I'm thinking that somebody at Hyundai is like, oh, what do we have to do to get 2 more?
They love, and the Hyundai group loves winning.
Yeah.
These things.
And they win a lot.
They do win a lot. They make good cars. Here you go.
The Volkswagen guys were genuinely excited too, though. It was cool.
Gosh, they should be excited. They need as much help as possible.
Right.
This is their halo car.
But one of the neat things about when you're there and you see this is as journalists, we're all used to seeing the automakers being automakers and being professional. And every now and then when they win something at these awards, I think this is the 3rd or maybe the 4th award presentation I've been at for NACTOY, and you'll hear there's a squeal from the audience as some executive or some PR person gets so happy. So it's kind of fun to hear their reactions and the grins they have on their face. They come on stage and they're like, thank you very much. And then they walk away and they're like to their team, like, look, it's a trophy. So it was kind of fun to see their reaction. The Volkswagen folks, everyone was excited, but I thought
for them. They need it, to be honest. It's a good car. I love the ID Buzz.
It is. It's a very good car. So
I'm waiting. I'm hoping people will stop buying it. I've already seen 2 in the wild. So I'm going to get silly with people who could afford to pay a lot of money for ID Buzzes around my neighborhood. And I'm a little irritated by that. But I'm hoping that at some point they'll have a nice lease offer on them.
And a nice deal. We'll have a deal. So that was utility. And for car of the year, it was the options were the Kia K4, the Toyota Camry, and the Honda Civic Hybrid, and the Civic Hybrid one, which is what both of you thought. I kind of thought the Camry might win. And again, I picked the second place guy because the Civic Hybrid got 205 votes, or 205 points, I should say. And the Toyota Camry got 165. So not nearly as close. And the K4 was in the back at 130. So that one, I wasn't surprised. Still wasn't surprised. I think I wouldn't have been surprised with Camry or Civic. Neither of those would have surprised me.
I had the impression that people were more impressed with the K4 than the Camry. The Camry is good, solid. It's exactly what you would expect. But the feeling I got from talking to people was that there was a lot more positive feeling about the Kia. I figured the Civic was going to win because it's just such a good vehicle.
Yeah,
but I thought the Kia would do better than that. But
yeah, I was surprised by that too. Like I said, I wasn't surprised that the Civic won, but I was surprised the point spread. I was surprised that the Kia did. It's not fair to say it did poorly. How many cars did it compete against? It was number 3. You know what I mean? So, but I thought I was hearing more positive feedback about the Kia than the total reflects, I guess.
Yeah.
But so Honda Civic came out on top, and then for trucks, we had the Ford Ranger, the Ram 1500, and the Tacoma. And you guys, again, picked the winner. You both said it would be the Ranger, which got 183 points. Then the Ram came in at 161 and the Tacoma at 156. I thought the Tacoma might win. So, but that one was closer. Like if you look at that, you can see 183, 161, 156. That's pretty close. Like all those trucks got a pretty good amount of the vote.
I figured the Tacoma would come in second ahead of the Ram.
Yeah. Did you?
Yeah, because I mean, the Ram is a really good full size truck, but it's what we got this year was really much more of a mid-cycle refresh.
Yeah,
the basic truck is still largely carryover. Got a new interior, got new engines, but that's the rest is largely carryover.
Yeah,
and I figured the Tacoma is all new, but I think there was a lot of people felt that the price point of the Tacoma was too high, especially for some of the upper trim levels.
I heard the same thing from jurors. Yes,
and the cab, the rear seat is too tight,
too small. Yeah. I had so it didn't surprise me that Ranger won, and Ford was very excited because I believe now Ford has currently in their lineup a winner like in every segment in their thing because they've done so well in the last couple of years. So
the Maverick won when it came out, I think.
Won.
Super Duty last year, and like F-150 Lightning.
The Lightning one, So they're pretty jazzed. They were pretty excited. So so those are our winners. So on to next year, and we'll see what the next year brings.
And we probably won't get a chance to vote for the Afeela yet for the 2026 awards. That's going to have to wait till 27.
I'll have to wait. We have to drive it though.
But that Faraday, that could be the winner, Sam.
Faraday. We got Faraday. We got Afeela. We got
Faraday van. It could take it all.
It could take it all. You never know. It could be. It could be.
The Alpha.
Yeah.
Remember Alpha with the wolf?
I don't remember that.
No.
I still get emails from them.
Jeez.
Like sometimes the emails are like, "Would you like to be an investor?" And I'm like, "I don't think you know who you're emailing."
No, sir, I would not like to be an investor. But
Alpha Motors, Wolf, look it up. It's a cool looking truck, and they have like footage of it running in the desert, but that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah,
I mean you can do a lot of that stuff in AI now.
I'm running in the desert.
So there you go. 2025 McCoy winners. There you go.
Yeah, you're right. It is a cool looking truck. I forgot about that one.
It's cool, right?
Have they actually built any, or is it just
they say they built one and they drove it around?
Yeah. Okay.
They keep showing it. They keep sending me emails showing it driving around, and I'm just like, well.
I mean, do we know if this is anything more than just a new body on an existing truck chassis? Is this just a Raptor with a new body on it?
It's just it's a Lordstown with the silver, and when they put it on inside of a Silverado, they're like, "Look, can we put a Lordstown inside of a Silverado?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Sure, you did."
All right. Did you, Nicole? Did you take any time to walk around and see the other stuff at the show? At the Detroit Auto. But by the way, because we didn't really mention, we on Friday morning we were at the Detroit Auto Show, or as I said to someone, the decaying husk of the Detroit Auto Show.
I watch. Here's the thing. So you guys, and I don't know if people know this, but in years past, in its heyday, the Detroit Auto Show was almost like a 3-day affair where you were running from 8 o'clock in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. From
some years it was till almost 6.
Right, and you would have people with little signs saying next press conference this way because it would be so hectic. You'd be like, wait, I got to go from Volkswagen to this to that. You were literally running from one reveal to the next. You would have offsite reveals and things in the evening. And it was 3 packed days of stuff. Today, the media day, and those would be the media days. The media day, one day at the Detroit Auto Show was from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. It was 4 hours. There was not a single official press conference from an automaker. Although there were automakers there, and we actually spoke to quite a few people at the Stellantis group because they had a lot of their team there to interview. But it was it was a little sad. It felt like a small regional auto show is what it felt like, not like the Detroit Auto Show that it used to be.
And, I think that's basically what it's come back to is a regional consumer show.
Yeah.
That, and, there's nothing wrong with that. That's where it started. It's a good opportunity for people to go, people that are interested in potentially buying a vehicle in the coming months to go and check out and see a bunch of these vehicles all in one place, sit in them, kick some tires, although they probably wouldn't appreciate it if you kicked the tires.
Probably not.
But to actually, to check them out and then figure out, okay, what do I want to go and test drive? And there's nothing wrong with that. There's a value in that. And actually my friend Ed Garston, who for a long time was the Detroit correspondent or Detroit bureau chief for CNN, and then also spent some time at Chrysler or Daimler Chrysler / Fiat Chrysler. And I think he left long before it became Stellantis. But he wrote a interesting piece when he was at Chrysler. He was director of digital communications, and did a bunch of stuff. He wrote a pretty good article, although I'm not sure why it's all in caps.
Yeah, I just looked. I'm like, what?
Ed's not a yelly kind of guy. I mean, he's a very soft-spoken guy.
Yeah,
I saw it. He said it had something to do with it's a script. So maybe that's how he wrote his script.
Oh, could be.
Which seems very weird because that's like difficult to read if you're. I don't know. I don't know how people work.
It's worth taking a couple of minutes to read it. He's got some good thoughts about kind of how auto shows evolved through the 90s. He came to Detroit in middle of '89. His first Detroit show that he covered was in 1990, and how it evolved and then devolved again over the last decade. And I agree with that. There's nothing wrong with the way it's transitioned. It's not a media event so much anymore. Although, like you said, Nicole, you and I did get a chance to sit down with 3 executives from Stellantis, and those I've already put up 2 of those interviews for patrons on Patreon, and they'll be included in the main show next week. But patrons get to listen to them early. And we appreciate you, patrons. You also earlier this week got to listen to an interview I did at CES with Anders Bell, the global head of engineering for Volvo Car, and that's going to be in today's show. But yeah, I think I think the way they laid out the show this year, it was better than what they did in fall of 2023. It looks a little nicer, a little more pleasant.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely, smaller than it has been in the past. And
really, auto shows, and it's the change from going to big media events to being more focused on consumers. Because even when we're there back in the day, we have 3 days at an auto show, but the show goes much longer for the public once it opens to the public, and they have all this opportunity to see stuff. It's still a great way for people to see a lot of cars in one place without having to drive from dealer to dealer to dealer. So it's still great from that point of view. But I just think the nature of media has changed. Putting us all in that room, just show us cars when you can do other things, just makes more sense.
Yeah, and even CES, I think we're seeing the same thing at CES. Less of the emphasis on big events and big booths at CES than there has been in prior years. I was talking to one CEO earlier this week. He said last year they spent $7 million to do a booth on the show floor at the Las Vegas Convention Center. And this year they had a suite at the Fontainebleau. And it was much more effective.
The shows are so expensive. And if you don't see the return on that investment, especially when you can just, if I want a bunch of journalists to pay attention to my thing and it not get buried in other CES shenanigans, I have an event in September. I fly a bunch of people out to wherever.
Yep.
We land. We all sit in a room. We learn the news. We get under embargo. We talk we walk around the car. We make content. We talk to executives. And then like a week later, it all goes up and they're not competing with everyone versus CES where you're competing with like a smart toothbrush.
Exactly. Yeah. And even when you factor in, the cost of flying a bunch of people to some location, putting them up in a nice hotel, it's usually still cheaper than doing one press conference at a major show. It's a fraction of the cost. So, it is the way it is. But one of the after we were done with our Stellantis interviews, I took a walk around the show floor as I was making my way back to the exit to head back to my car to come home. And I did stumble across one thing that was kind of cool, which is the grounded RV. Did you go by the Chevrolet booth, Nicole?
I don't think I saw this. No, I think I missed this when I was there.
Oh, so this is a they had an RV based on a Brightdrop delivery van.
Oh, cool.
So this is a little startup that is working out of New Lab in Detroit, which is New Lab is the facility next door to the Michigan Central Station. The building was the former Detroit Book Depository, and it's part of the complex that Ford bought some years ago. They bought the Book Depository, the station, and a couple of other adjacent buildings. And the first one to open up in 2023 was New Lab. And it's an incubator, a space for startups and of various kinds to get some space to do some collaboration. And so Grounded RVs is some former folks from Tesla and SpaceX, Tesla and SpaceX that wanted to build an electric RV. And the first one they did was based on the Ford E-Transit, which has much less range than the Brightdrop. And so their second generation model, the G2, is based on the Brightdrop van, which has much bigger battery. It's got all-wheel drive. It's got a range of, they're saying about 250 miles. And this is a pretty cool RV. And the starting price for it is about $199,000, which sounds like a lot, and it is. But if you compare it to, say, some of the customized Sprinter vans or Transits or some of the other overlanding vans, it's actually it's pretty comparable to those.
Yeah, this actually looks really cool. I'm reading it looks really neat and great. This very rectangular shape of it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
For storing stuff, but it looks like it ships. It says in here, it ships fast. So, and you can swap or upgrade modules. It looks like there's a module way that they have this where you can, they show one module, they have these different layouts, and there's one layout where it makes little bunk beds, and then there's spot for you to slide your kayaks in, on the side, inside the little camper van. This is kind of neat. I like the idea of being able to do all these different examples. And if you could actually be well, we're going camping this week, we need this many beds, but next week we only need 2. You could mess around with it. Kinda neat.
The whole interior is modular setup with bed modules and storage and other stuff.
They even have one module that looks like they've totally set up an office so you could quote work from home from wherever it is you chose.
Yep. And it comes with a Starlink receiver, and you get solar panels on the roof for 11 kilowatts of power. So you can power your stuff while you're working from the road in your camper.
That's pretty neat.
I think it's 1 kilowatt of power.
You're right. I misread that.
Well, that's a lot of power. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What are they using?
1 kilowatt of power. You're correct.
Which is still, fine.
That's very cool. I like this thing. This is pretty neat. I'm sorry I missed this when I was there. This looks kind of...
I've driven the Brightdrop van. It's nice to drive.
Yeah. I like this. Nifty.
Yeah. So making the Brightdrop into a camper, which I think is definitely cool.
Cool idea.
Yep. All right. That I think is it. That's enough for today. I have an interview that I recorded.
That's enough.
I have an interview I recorded on Monday morning with Anders Bell, as I mentioned, the global head of engineering for Volvo Car, and that'll be coming up in just a minute. And it was a pretty good conversation. Any final thoughts?
Nope, not for me. That's it.
All right.
That's my final thought.
All right. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, Volvo, is like everyone else in the industry, is facing some interesting challenges right now as the industry and the whole market is transitioning. Let's start off with, Volvo had announced plans to go all electric by 2030. Yep. The timing of that
is in flux right now, not just for Volvo, but for everyone. And from your perspective, leading R&D and engineering for Volvo, what kind of new challenges is that posing for you?
I think when you look in terms of kind of propulsion systems, we're in a very good position in the case that we had PHEVs are doing extremely well already on the markets that we can continue kind of invest on as a platform. And we have a bespoke battery electric vehicle architectures that we already announced and have invested in for some time now, which is kind of behind us already in terms of investment peak that we can capitalize on going forward. And I think that's kind of the best position to be in, if you ask me, because it's only when you really fully engage and fully design bespoke for electric vehicles and can truly remove all the traditional constraints, kind of hidden and seen constraints of the combustion engine architecture, that you could fully optimize and make fantastic battery electric vehicles and make them efficient and make them truly profitable. And that's a very fortunate position to be in right now, to be able to do both, cater both for the kind of varying adoption level of BEV in the different regions. I think this is mostly what we see right now, the different adoption levels, rates at the different regions, where it was kind of this big global movement to battery electric vehicles, which is still true in a lot of places, especially in Northern Europe, etc. But even inside Europe, the adoption rate is uneven. It's uneven. In US, obviously, coast versus inland, etc. I think being able to navigate that in a pragmatical way is good. And end goal is still super clear, right? End goal is for electrification and for BEV. That's still the case.
So, one of the big challenges on the BEV side, of course, is cost. And getting that optimization to try to bring down the cost, both from a business standpoint for a manufacturer like Volvo, but also for affordability for consumers. What are some of the areas that you see, for best opportunities for taking that cost out of BEVs, and also plug-in hybrids and whatever else you might do?
I think for the BEV, it's important. It's a holistic approach of vehicle creation and integration. It's not a system by system approach when you're looking at really truly creating competitive, efficient battery electric vehicles. It's the whole obvious. This is where I come back to the being able to design purely for BEV in every single molecule of that product and be able to fully remove the constraints of the combustion engine from that design is a key enabler to really achieve competitive, affordable, but also profitable battery electric vehicles. This also comes together combined with, it's pretty much two different movements in the same time that are happening, right? You have the electrification of the car and the computerization of the car. Coexisting, happening at the same time, could have happened independently, coincidentally happening at the same time, right? So you need to navigate both. Both of these movements drive kind of the same direction in terms of vertical integration. Meaning, first, if you take the example of first generation battery electric vehicles, absolutely okay, did the job. And now I'm talking about the first electric EX40 and Z40. First generation, Tier 1 drive units, buying a lot of the parts in the battery pack, reaching about 88% efficiency, decent for the back in those years, not competitive today. So today we have in production second generation e-motor and driveline system in those cars, which is reaching 91% efficiency and significantly cost reduction. So it's both increasing efficiency and achieving lower cost by doing more of the vertical integration. Now we're launching soon our third generation, which is 93% efficiency, and further a lot of cost reduction, weight reduction, and CO2 reduction in the manufacturing process. So we're still in this hockey stick where kind of Gen 1, 2 to 3, which happens over the course of pretty much 4 or 5 years. A hockey stick of you getting better performance, lower cost, better efficiency, lower CO2 footprint. Of course, that will bottom out at some point. But I think that journey is tremendous important to do as a car company. And we've done it by moving drive unit design and now manufacturing in-house, battery design, and including power electronics, battery management systems in-house, still by the cells. A lot of your charging technology moved in-house. So this is the kind of, I come back to where I started. So the first drift is vertically integrate to a level where you can horizontally, like relentlessly optimize both cost, performance, efficiency across the entire drive unit setup, from drive units, battery pack, power electronics. That journey we have done. So we see this massive stacks in all V boxes. Now, coincidentally, the software-defined vehicle drives the same approach, but hits on kind of different technology areas. Doing all the software in-house and doing truly software-defined vehicle based on our core compute system, you need to also move in-house, in-source, and vertically integrate down to a level where you can horizontally realize functionality. It's a combination of all the hardware capabilities in the car, removing a lot of black box ECUs, traditionally supplied by tier ones, moving that in-house. So both the movements, kind of the software-defined vehicle on one side, the battery electric vehicle on the other side, drive the same movement kind of down in your stack, so you can horizontally optimize relentlessly, create functions in the term of software, and optimize the entire chain of electric vehicle propulsion. And this is the big kind of, for me, this is the big transformation that happened in the car, because it's a different way of operating than traditional. All your traditional, your traditional tier one value streams are up in the air. Not saying they are obsolete. They just we need to work differently.
Different distribution of what gets done in-house versus...
Yeah, and I'll get the strength because the strength is, the example I usually use is a state-of-the-art ADAS system in the domain-based world, the domain-based R, which is the traditional way of creating the product, which is kind of a system of systems where in this case, an ADAS system with a camera, radars, has its own ECU, and it only ever talks to what's inside that network. Yes, of course, there's a communication to braking, steering, etc., but it's decentralized. And that's ECU, which has the radars and the cameras behind it. You can really never reach on the inside truly as an OEM. It's that's what it's designed to do extremely well, which is to stay in the lane, do auto braking, and whatever functionality you have in there. But what we do in the software-defined vehicle is pretty much remove that ECU, both literally and as a bigger speed. And now the camera and the radar are there. They're justified to stay in lane and do auto braking and all those things. But now it's a capability exposed to the entire system. So now you can realize all those functions that you want in an ADAS environment, but you also have access to the camera, front-facing camera for whatever purpose you want to do over time. Dash cam, sentry mode, you name it. And these things are familiar with other...
Yeah, so you can leverage the investment you've made in your hardware bill of materials to provide new features and functionality for customers without adding additional hardware costs.
And that's really the case for the software-defined vehicle. I don't really particularly like the phrase software-defined vehicle, but people generally in the industry understand what we're talking about, which is to continue add functionality. In the old domain-based system, you added more and more and more complexity. Plus, every single piece of development for a function was done on a system. So if you have multiple ADAS systems in production, you need to repeat the same development twice for the same function. And I think this is the case. To continue to grow, to really build on the capability we have in compute, the software and hardware, you need a much more open system where you do only a development once. Then it's there in the stack. It's available for all the cars on the road and everything that rolls out of the factory from this point on. And then you can start really do innovation and product enhancement in every single sense without adding any complexity in the hardware sector. You're just building, so you're looking at the product, the view on the product on high level becomes it's a hardware capability and compute capability over time to which you can continuously add more and more software functionality. And now you need to kind of always develop a trajectory of how much memory do I have, how much CPU do I have left over, what's our sensing capability, and how do I need to develop that all the time? What is the hardware I continuously deploy and upgrade to, so I can keep on without over-speccing here,
Right.
but never hitting the ceiling.
Yeah. You need to give yourself enough headroom to get that growth without going too far.
Symbiotic relationship, because this is what we want to do over time. What we think 3 years out we want to do with software and I need to continuously make sure I have the hardware already in production to do that when I get there in the software stuff.
So, with the EX90, you've incorporated, I think, the first real iteration of a modern EE architecture. And now that, the decision has been made, going back to where we started with, keeping some of the more traditional propulsion systems in place as well. Are you porting back that new EE architecture into those existing vehicles as well?
Can't go into detail exactly on the what kind of cross-fertilization we do. What is clear, and we show this in our Capital Markets Day. If you take, for instance, on the infotainment stack, yes, we are porting over the same UI, basically the same master from the EX90, the Sport 2, Sport 3 based cars. Back to already existing fleet. Cars going as far back as 2021, all based on the Android Automotive OS. We'll get the same UI from the same software master as we have in the big cars. Obviously, there will be different configurations depending on what silicon it runs on. Not all capabilities will be ported over, but in that sense, yes, that's kind of a small piece of our superset tech stack approach. This one spans across architectures or platforms where the same software master fuels all cars under here in production, but also going back to the fleet quite far. Then porting the entire our platform will just to clarify, Sport 2, Sport 3 we talk a lot about, which is really vehicle architecture steps. So if you look at it in 4 steps, vehicle architecture, this is where we do Sport 2 to Sport 3, which is primarily a vehicle architecture step. So chassis, body, kind of the whole layout of the car. Sport 2 was never designed to be super scalable. It was always designed to build a number of very high flagship, hyper-spec flagship cars. Then we cut over to Sport 3, which is primarily a vehicle architecture design, much more scalable, B to F, with very good potential for profitability in the smaller size, which of course then
so that's going
helps
that Sport 3 is going to replace some of those existing platforms like GMC.
Sport 3 we can do everything B to F, high, low, cab forward, more traditional stance. It's designed to be very flexible, but it carries over. The propulsion and energy platform between Sport 2 and Sport 3 is shared. So drive units, battery technology, etc. It's one roadmap for both vehicle architectures. So compute and electronics is the same roadmap. So we will launch a few differences or improvements in the Sport 3 cars, but ultimately the same software master, same compute row. So from the launch of the EX90 onwards on the BEV side, we talk about one superset tech stack. This is one software master for every car going forward, which is, and I still get the question, how much is the carryover, how much software is carryover from EX90 to EX60? It's not a discussion, it's the same. It's not going to run the same configurations, just like your MacBook M1 and versus M4 running different configurations, but it's the same software master. So it's not about how much code is exactly the same, it's actually the same master. And we configure it to the different cars. So any function developed for EX90 would be available from the get-go for the EX60 for Eastos. So there it's a completely different mindset approach compared to the old platform where you design a platform for a given set of cars, that's still the same, the whole vehicle architecture piece. And then you make X number of cars over X number of years, and then you start from scratch again.
Right.
And then you bring something. This is more of a perpetual, the software master will now live forever.
Kind of fitting in with the whole CI/CD concept of continuous integration, continuous deployment, where it's continually evolving over time as you go from one platform to another.
That's exactly, and then daily releases, daily testing, daily activities, lots of automation of testing, picking your candidates, and then we're aiming to do 4 major releases to customers per year, but obviously those releases are for all cars. It's not per vehicle model. So the releases will be for all cars, both on the road, in the factory, but also on the drawing board. Which is the kind of nature of coming from the same master.
So the SPA2 program had a delay because of challenges with software development, and that's not something unique to Volvo. I mean, all the legacy automakers have had their challenges around this transition to a new way of developing software. How do you feel today about where your team is, where Volvo is, in terms of its software development capabilities, the organizational structure, the processes you have in place? Do you feel like you've got the right kind of organization and the right kind of tools and processes in place to be able to do this transition to a modern way of doing software?
I think it's always the product, right? At the end of the day. So everything else is just there. So now we launched the EX90, fantastic car, but from a technology perspective, just the beginning. So getting to the point now where we have the cars out, we're delivering to customers, we're doing over-the-air updates, we now continue to deliver on the roadmap of functionality. And at the same time, as I said before, knowing this is the master that will feed everything. So every single piece of work we do now on the master for EX90 will benefit every single car that comes afterwards. So that's just, yes, we're absolutely getting there. We are so much stronger now than we were a few years ago. It's a massive transition because it's not just learning how to write code, right? This is learning to do software, a software factory for automotive, with all the quality assurance, all your safety in place. This is a 2.5 ton moving object we put on public roads, right? So it's not like consumer grade electronics we talk about. This is an automotive product, so many regulations that we need to buy with, and we do the global product. So it is tough. I'm super happy that we're now at the point where we're delivering cars, and I'm super happy knowing that this is just the beginning, because this is the massive proof point to get the first cars out, to actually be maybe the legacy car maker that is first in doing this transition and putting cars out on the road. And it's hard work, and it changes, as I said before, the electrification and the computerization at the same time changes so many aspects of how they operate and how you fundamentally view the products and how the product development process works. We were so used of being able to take this complex object, the world's most complex consumer product, the car, where we developed as an industry over many, many years, ways of conceptualizing the whole car early on, break it down into digestible chunks, systems, ADAS system, brake system, steering system, seat system, IP system, infotainment system, and how they interact with each other in the domain-based world. Divide that labor out to various teams to develop, to source, to find suppliers over our design manufacturing lines, and develop them all in parallel and put them back together again with a predictable result. That whole equation changes to a very large extent with the software-defined vehicle, and finding that array which influences pretty much every fiber of the development organization and manufacturing organization. Development including supply chain, how you source, what are the interfaces sourced towards, statements of works and everything. Coming out now on the other side, will I ever be happy with where we are? No, never. That's not my job. There's always improvements we can do. We have a motto which is relentless progress. This is really what we need as a development organization need to do. Need to relentlessly progress. We are so much stronger now than we were 2 years ago. But will we ever be happy? No, there's so much more we can do. I think the biggest, and this this computerized age is that the tool chain that develops the product and the product itself becomes one. So your digital representation of the product, the tool chain, in which you create the three-dimensional stuff, the hardware, the electronics, the software, the whole IT structure, all your testing and validation environment becomes symbiotic with the product. It's kind of the digital twin for real. It goes through, cuts through everything. They become inseparable. So it is a massive transition. I think we know where we are. We know, and we're super happy with getting cars out. Driving this myself as well every day now. We're learning a lot. As an organization, we know exactly where we need to be heading. Continuously improving and every single piece of the operation and the process.
Okay. I know from my own experience last fall, having driven the EX90 and then also the Polestar 3, in my first experiences with both of those cars, the software did seem much more solid than some of the other new products I've tried in the last few years, that were say flaky. they were inconsistent in their reliability early on. But it seems I haven't heard of any significant issues with the new Volvo products yet. So
no, and I think we are never okay at launching something which is not robust. So with extensive testing, of course, before we deliver. At the same time, it's kind of the paradox of the software-defined product. No matter what it is, if it's a phone or a computer or a car, it's like, when is it ready?
Yeah.
When is it ready to deliver? Well, when it's finished.
Yeah.
Sorry. When is it finished? It's never.
It's never finished.
But then there's follow questions. But when? How do you know when to deliver it? Well, when it's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
So is that like it will always become better, but it's great now? And managing that paradox also in automotive, where we're so used to it in phones, especially, and laptops, that in automotive, with most customers, it's kind of a new thing. But what can I expect to get in a year from now? I can't tell you, but I'm sure we'll do a lot of great stuff.
Yeah, well, and one of the themes from the technology industry and traditional technology industry has always been this idea of the minimum viable product. That question of when do you ship? It's like when have you reached that minimum viable product? But I think there's a huge difference between what is a minimum viable product for your phone or your computer or some other consumer electronics device versus for a 2.5-ton vehicle. It's because the consequences of failure are so much higher. And so, from your perspective, I guess this kind of transitions into safety. Safety's always been a key part of the Volvo ethos. Yeah. For you, what do you consider to be minimum viable product for a software-defined vehicle?
So, exactly as you pointed out, safety is kind of our core value. It's been around the company since we were founded 97 years ago, and to a large extent, if there's all the different reasons to do a software-defined vehicles, there's so many things we can do with that product for the benefit of the consumer, for the benefit of the planet, for the benefit of road safety. I think for us, the opportunities to take the next step in terms of safety is the biggest. If we only needed one reason, that's the one. It justifies the whole investment. The ability to truly understand what happens in the world in pretty much real time, with having obviously consent from the customers, where we're super clear what data is being shared, what we use it for, etc. That's always a given. And because even data safety is also safety, so that falls very much in our realm as well. But the things we would be able to develop over time with this full real-time insight. And as you might know, we have since 1970s been out there, always being super curious on what goes on in the real world. So, of course, safety development in the lab is important. It's a way to take away the mass complexity of the endless complexities of the world and focus on distilled knowledge on how to develop a safe car. but we always had that curiosity to go out to see what actually happens out there, not just being satisfied with passively doing what we're being asked by regulators and rating institute, but also being very much part of contributing to that environment. Early days measuring tapes, like police reports, driving out there. We still do that. We collected over 50,000 accidents over since 1970s. That kind of process, the skill set to be able to digest and analyze and convert those into meaningful design activities has fueled a lot of our safety innovations over the last, since the company was born, pretty much. Now we're going to equip that capability with a superpower of real-time, real-world insight and the ability to write back new instructions to the entire fleet on a very granular level. And that, for me, is this is the gist of why we're doing software-defined vehicles. It's the step effect of the realistic kind of goal toward continuous drive towards zero. This is the biggest contributor on how to get there. But obviously, as you say, safety is also how do you make sure you handle and manage a 2.5-ton product in public safety. So that's a foundational. Well, that's absolutely need to be there on every product before you launch it. Hats down. But that's a different from safety features in terms of ADAS or functionality in terms of passing. This is just basic core operational safety.
Yeah, I mean, traditional vehicles, the way it was when it rolls out of the factory is as safe as that vehicle is ever going to be. And now you have the opportunity to improve on that safety level over the life of that vehicle. As long as that vehicle is still in use, you have the potential to keep improving on that.
We are very good and experienced in the whole realm of functional safety and apply ISO 26262 on top of the whole vehicle approach. And that goes also not only for the current existing platform, but also goes for the EX90 and all other cars obviously.
Okay. We're running low on time. I do want to circle back on something from earlier in the conversation. We talked about with propulsion systems, for example, having more work in-house and using that to optimize and take cost out. On the internal combustion side, across the Geely group, they combined all of the internal combustion and development and manufacturing elements from the various brands within the group into one business unit. Is something similar being done on the electrification side to have that manufacturing and design as part of the larger Geely group, or is that something that for now at least is staying with the Volvo?
I can't comment on any kind of in the group. So we always look pragmatically on what's the best way of doing our business, as we did on propulsion on the combustion engine side, which works very well for us. So we can focus right now on BEV development. We'll see what the future holds in terms of further.
But today, is that something core to Volvo Cars?
Volvo Cars is an independent company listed on the Nasdaq exchange in Stockholm. We have a large ownership from within the Geely holding group, which is of course a good bed for discussing synergies between us, but also will always be transactional between the companies, and there will always be, there needs to be a win-win in any such collaboration.
Okay, great. Any final thoughts that you want to share about kind of what's going on with Volvo?
What did I miss, Russell?
I don't think you missed anything, Anders. There's a lot with this divide of heist. I mean, it's important. The safety, of course, that hit the nail on the head with our investment in the technology being worth it to improve the safety. Well, I think that's critical of. And the independence too. Talked about a little bit about that this morning. I hope that.
Yeah, I think the kind of bottom line on this is this is what we develop in the SPA 2 and SPA 3 again, which is non-roadmap for labs fully forward. It's our fully own IP on our own software stack. And I think you might want to factor it. We are the first legacy car maker to do the transition to full software-defined vehicle. Now, with that said, this is just the beginning of the journey, but anything before product on the road is just talk. Now the EX90 is here. Did ship it to start there. We're filling the pipeline. Customers getting deliveries. We are releasing software now. Start to over the air. Done the first over the air round to this. We'll be adding some daddy features now, coming up in a few weeks' time. So now we start getting into that cadence as well of maintaining the fleet, releasing to factory, releasing to customer fleets, and it's a super interesting time ahead now having that, because I think this is a necessary kind of the convergence to one tech stack. You can't do software-defined vehicles and have 3, 4, 5 different software stacks. It's a perfect bit.
Yeah, it's
convert to one.
Yeah, it takes so much resources to do all this as a common software stack to begin with. Would you do that, multiple?
Then you need to repeat that function development. You need to repeat it for every single stack or every single sensor set. So the whole superset subset approach and one software master it's hard. And it is difficult. It's a different position because as a legacy car company, you need to continue running their own business as well, because that's actually what's paying the bills today while investing in the future. And those two words are quite different. So managing and mastering both at the same time is hard. And I think we have the massive proof point now with the Afeela EX90, and now the fun begins for real.
I like your comment about how the hill has been climbed, right?
And the
investment has been made, it's done. Now it's just about improvement, right?
Yeah, it's just about improvement. So we announced that the EX60 is coming on SPA 3, the first car out of that vehicle architecture. That bring up is pretty much them. Same software master. So we're releasing to those early cars, it's integrated with releases for EX90 in the years now. So it's getting there. Still a lot more to learn, I'm sure. All influence, how this influence, what does the tool chain look like 5 years from now in terms of your CI, CD, together with the hardware factory, which they kind of, how does the hardware factory, the software factory really integrate and interact? The high level we know, but now we need the precision to get there as well. So it will be this relentless progress on creating the machine that builds the machine for real, which is super exciting because we know what we know. We know what we're in for. We learn so much more. I go back the last 4 or 5 years, I've only been part of the last 2. Much more gray hair, some scars here and there, but it's all good scars. It's good. It's lessons learned.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Thanks, Sam.
Everyone's talking about AI these days, right? This season on Compiler, we're diving deep into how AI is reshaping the world we live in. Join us for a new season of Compiler, an original podcast from Red Hat. Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts.
Owning a boat comes with a number of perks, like being able to fling your favorite fishing rod around. And here's another perk. Geico's boat insurance covers your boat and your belongings. And with specialist support from agents that are as passionate about boating as you are, there's so much value that you'll want to high-five someone. But not while you're holding your fishing rod. That's a prized possession. So hold on tight with both hands and keep it covered through boat insurance. Get more with Geico.